Welcome to another episode of Mighty Car Mods, proudly supported by Just Car Insurance. Now, this is our Mazda MX-5 Miata that you will have seen in a couple episodes where we turned a naturally aspirated car into a mad turbocharged car over 3 big episodes.
It used to go wah, and now it goes
exactly, which we've turned it into quite a desirable little car.
It is. Now, when you have something desirable, you have to be worried about people taking it, like Marty's elderly girlfriend Cheryl. There's a few people at the bingo hall that have had their eye on Cheryl. They can't quite see her though because they're too old. But today we're going to teach you guys how to put an alarm in your car. Now, an alarm is not a completely fail-safe way of making sure no one ever steals your car, because if people really want it, sadly, they're just going to take it anyway. But it does have a couple of mad benefits, such as
reducing your insurance premium. A lot of insurers will not even insure your car unless you have an Australian standard alarm in it.
And immobiliser. Because, I mean, a car without an immobiliser is like a dugong without seagrass. They can't eat. They go hand in hand. Dugongs are vegetarian. People think they're kind of like whales, but they actually have more in common with elephants, and they're endangered, so don't eat them. But anyway, your car needs an alarm. If you've got a mad car, you need to protect it, just like you protect your private parts when you're doing strange things with people you don't know that well. So today, we're going to teach you guys how to put an alarm in your car. It's going to be it's going to be mad.
It's going to be mad.
So this is an Australian-made alarm, made to Australian standards. Now I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what's going to be in the box. This here is the siren. That's loud, believe it or not. It hurts your earballs. There's also a shock sensor inside that, so if something hits the car, that goes off. This is the main brains of it in here. This is what runs everything. Over here, these are all your inputs and outputs. Over here are the relays, so these are the things that you actually use to cut things like fuel pumps or whatever else. You've also got all your wiring looms in here. You've got your key fobs, should be in here somewhere. These guys, they're awesome, so that's also going to work if you want to add central locking later in as well. We're also, because the MX-5 is a hermaphroditical soft top, we're going to put in a microwave sensor as well. Now, the idea of these is they kind of put a force field beam over your car. It's basically an invisible scrotum, and if anybody tickles the scrotum, it makes a lot of noise. So this here, the idea is to install this right in the middle of the car, so right here, so that the big invisible force field goes around here, and what that means is the roof can be down, and if somebody reaches in, it goes, hey, you're touching my balls, didn't give you permission. It makes a whole lot of noise, and that's kind of embarrassing. Now, Miles from the Mighty Car Mods forum, Miles, he's like actually the expert at all this stuff, unlike us. He recently did an install for us where we're trying to keep weight down as much as we can, and instead of putting this unit in, he just hooked the alarm's output to the horn. This doesn't weigh a lot, but it does take up a bit of room, and we're trying to kind of keep it tight. So that is possible as well. That's what's in the kit. There's a few brackets and a few other little bits and pieces there, but now Martin is going to show you what tools you need.
So here are the tools you're going to need. It's all the basic stuff for doing auto electrical things. You're going to need screwdrivers to get all the bits of dash undone. You're going to need a multimeter along with your wiring guide or your online thing or your manual, whatever you're going to use to find what wires you need to intercept. You're going to need a drill to attach things into the engine bay. Wire strippers and side cutters come in really handy when you start stripping wires. Cable ties to keep things neat. You may need some spare wire if you need to extend things. And we're also going to be soldering. This is not the kind of install that you want to twist and tape on, because if it falls apart, your car stops. It's really important that you solder. And with that in mind, we've got both heat shrink and also electrical tape. Don't be too scared by electrical tape, because it's actually okay and it insulates perfectly.
And in fact, Martin, we're going to be talking about a couple of different soldering techniques, including the NASA standard, aren't we, Martin?
We're going to space soldering.
First, pop your bonnet and find a spot for your siren and shock sensor.
Maybe over here, Martin.
Dude, what'd you do to my engine? What did you do to my engine?
I haven't done anything to it.
That's not a 1.8.
Yeah, we took it out of your Polo. Here, Martin. This is where it's going to go, mate. Right here.
I don't like engine cover.
We're just going to remove your fuse box, Martin, because we don't need it anymore.
No, we definitely need the fuse box.
Nah.
We just need to find a space for the actual...
I'm getting rid of the fuse box and replacing it with your alarm siren, Martin.
See, that's not going to work. You know what will happen if you do that? The car won't go.
Yeah, exactly.
Genius.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you.
Well done.
You want to mount it face down so water can't get in it from above and out of the way of water that could splash up from underneath. You also want to make sure it's mounted somewhere solid.
So this is a little automatic punch thing. There's probably some really cool technical name for it that I don't know, but this is really handy for when you're drilling holes into metal, particularly in car bodies, because often when you get your drill and you start drilling, it'll slip and it wrecks your paint. So this creates a tiny little dent that the drill bit then sticks into, and your hole is perfect.
The awesome thing about that, Marty, is you can do it one-handed, because I've got like an old set, like a 10 set that are all different sizes and shapes. And you got to get them in there, and then you get a mallet and you give them a good whack. But you're saying you can basically
one-handed
whack that with one hand.
Exactly. Like
a one-handed whack. Give us a look, Martin.
Like this. Makes a cool noise too. Now it's got a little dent there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The cool thing about that is I wouldn't be able to get a hammer in that space.
No.
We're mounting the siren bracket on the firewall on the driver's side. A right angle drill or adapter can help too. With your holes drilled, screw the alarm bracket onto the firewall.
Earlier Moog was talking about microwave sensors as being one of the ways that the alarm can be triggered. This is
like a scrotum, Martin.
Always with you and the scrotums. This is another way. This is a bonnet pin, which is a trigger, and when the bonnet is closed, the pin's like that. But if for whatever reason the alarm's armed and it pops up like that, it triggers the alarm and it sets it off. So this lives down here in the bonnet, like that, with a wire going in underneath it that we run around and send into the alarm to one of the triggers, and it's mad and it goes off.
And you can either use an existing hole if you're lucky enough to have one, like these ones just sitting here, Martin, or simply find a place to mount it and just drill it through.
Yeah. As long as it can, when the bonnet's shut, it looks like that. When it's open, it looks like that.
Oh, Martin, you popped it all the way out.
I did. It's good effort.
Screw your bonnet pin down tight because false alarms from a loose trigger at 4 AM suck balls.
Next up, run the wiring from your bonnet pin down inside the car. Then run the wiring from the siren and shock sensor through the firewall. Use an existing grommet or drill a new one, but make sure it doesn't rub on anything.
I can't feel it, keep pushing it.
Have you got it? Just put your hand on it.
Yeah, gotta push it harder, man. I can't see it yet.
But if you grab it, it'll come through there properly.
I can't grab it until you push it in.
Dude, just grab it. It'll be fine.
I can't grab it, Martin, because I can't feel it.
Oh.
Push it a bit more.
Yeah, it's pushed.
No, there it is. I've got it.
You've got it?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there's heaps of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Just watch your eye, mate.
Man, look how much there is.
Yeah, it's big, isn't it?
It just keeps coming out.
I know.
Why is it so long, Martin?
I don't know.
Why did we do that?
I don't know.
Seriously, there's meters and meters of it.
Okay, so the rest of the action happens up under the dash. Most of the wires that you need are connected to the ignition barrel. Now, a lot of cars, especially this age, may have already had an alarm once before in their lives, which makes it easier but also can make it messier, and it's all about being neat and making good soldered connections. So we're going to get under there and see how the damage is, and we're going to put in our alarm.
And you want to make it super neat and kind of factory looking as possible, because you don't want it to be really, really clear which part of that wiring is your alarm and which part isn't. You want to stealth it in there, don't you, Martin?
Exactly.
Okay, so the siren and the shock sensor have been installed in the engine bay, and the wires have come through the firewall here. We've also got a switch under the bonnet. Now you can also put a switch if you want under the boot, and we're also going to be activating the alarm with the factory mounted switches on both of the doors here. Now we're also going to be having our gigantic invisible scrotum control unit, which is our microwave sensor that's going to be covering the car in a protective field like Voltron. That's going to be incredible. The next thing to do is mount up the control unit up underneath the dash. Now the interesting thing about this is what connects it together is the loom that is all black. Obviously it's black for a reason. You don't want to color code the wires on here. Now each of the wires, if you can see this, has a number on it, and those numbers correspond to the numbers on the instructions here that show you exactly where to wire it in. Super black, super stealthy. So the job now is to hide this up under the dash, literally just wire it all together, and the car is alarmed and mad. Ow! You were scared I was going to hit your balls, weren't you?
You almost did.
You were scared I was going to hit your balls right there.
Like most in-car electronics, the alarm needs a power and ground to operate. Then you connect up the indicators for feedback for when you arm and disarm. From there, it's just inputs that tell the alarm when something has happened, like a door has been opened or the car bumped, and circuit breaking, where the onboard relays can cut the ignition, fuel, or anything else you like.
So the way an immobiliser part of an alarm system works is by breaking circuits and then joining them again when you disarm the alarm. So if you imagine that's the wire that goes between your key and the rest of your car, all the alarm system does is break that in half, and then using one of these things, joins them again by going one to there and one to there. Now the alarm's in control of that circuit, and what happens is that goes down to the little circuit board here. It's put onto a relay like that, and then when you hit go on the alarm, it joins the circuit or it breaks it. And that's how it works, so that's what we're gonna do.
The wires that you use are specific to each car, so get your nose into a service manual or get your balls onto the internet and find out what wires to cut, splice, join or strip.
Again, it's important to solder these connections. There's nothing worse than a dodgy alarm install getting you stranded. Get yourself some heat shrink tubing and use it wherever possible. Electrical tape is for connections where heat shrink can't fit.
Okay, so we've cut into our main ignition circuit part of the car, and that's now joined that way. If we were to join those together like that, the car would start. If we break them apart, it won't, and that's all the alarm's doing. So basically we just plug that onto our alarm circuit board, and that on a very basic level is now an immobiliser. All that's left to do is get that to power and an earth, and then plug the sensors and the siren in, and that would work as an alarm.
Good alarms come with lots of circuits for doing auto window ups, turbo timers and other things. You can strip back the wires you aren't using to make your install neater. Good wire strippers make this job a whole lot easier.
Now when it comes to soldering, there are a couple of schools of thought, but there's two that are popular and a lot of people use. Now the first one is the Western Union connection. So that is, you basically get your two wires that you want to solder, you lay them on top of each other like this so they're almost parallel, and then you twist them around together so you're actually making a physical connection between the two wires like that. So once that's done, the good thing about this is you don't need any extra hands. You can literally just put that there, you can get your solder, the end of your soldering iron and the solder and the joint, put it all together, and smoky goes the weasel. There it is. Keep going until that's covered and tinned. There you go. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is the NASA technical standard. Now take a close-up look at this and I'll show you what's going on here. So for starters, what we've got going on there is I've just got two alligator clips and they're holding the wires onto a washer, which makes it a little bit easier to solder because this one is harder and it's not something that you can do if you don't have super steady hands. Now if you take a close look at this, I'll tell you what's going on here. So you've got two wires that have already been tinned. They need to be parallel to each other, and now this comes from the NASA technical standard for crimping and interconnecting cables, harnesses and wiring. So here's the deal, you get the two wires, they need to be laid parallel to each other and touching. Now according to 19.6.1 of the NASA technical specifications and standards, you do not wrap or twist them whatsoever. You lay them next to each other. Once they're both tinned, you literally just touch them like this, heat them up, and once that's heated, boom, they're stuck together. That's it. Now, when they did their tests with these, apparently they got long wires, they soldered them in this style, and when they pulled them apart, they did break, but they didn't break at that point, proving that it was really strong and is strong. Now they don't crimp them obviously because they want to keep as much weight off that as they can, especially when they're sending things into space. Now there's some good and bad things about each of them. Personally, Marty and I use the Western Union one. We just like the idea that it's already connected and it's just much easier when you're working by yourself. The NASA style is cool because you can let everyone know, hey, my car's been wired up to NASA specifications. That makes ladies basically think you're awesome. The other good thing about this is that when it's time to undo this, because you haven't actually put a mechanical connection in there, you can put some heat on that, and I've turned this off now, but if you put some heat on that, you can undo that solder really easily. So if it's not a permanent install, that is a better way to do it. So NASA or Western Union, it's up to you.
So we're always crapping on about test fitting things first before you wire it all in and tape it all up. We've got everything here that we need for a basic immobiliser and alarm function. All that we need to do now is make it look pretty and test it out. And then we've also got our microwave sensor, which we'll install in the center console.
The scrotum sensor one.
The scrotum sensor that we're going to install into the center console. But everything going right, this should work. So 2 means unarmed and the car will start. Awesome. But if we arm it, and there's a bit of a delay, 1, nothing. We can also disable it so the starter doesn't go as well if you want to use one of those extra channels, but that Means the car's immobilised. Mad.
You know what else I'd like to try as well, Martin?
What's that?
Is take that and arm the alarm, Martin.
1 sec. It's armed.
Pop the bonnet. It works, Martin.
That's awesome.
That's a working alarm and immobiliser. Now all we need is our virtual scrotum attractor.
Ooh.
And then that means you can leave the car open like this and you can't even get in it, Martin, without it screaming at you.
The microwave sensor gets installed in the middle of the car, just behind the shifter, and then the wires are run down and plugged into the alarm circuit board.
Okay, so the microwave sensor scrotum maximizer 5000 has been installed.
Did you say
and what
something?
that means is now when we activate the
Is he
alarm...
talking?
Do it, Martin.
What?
Press the button, mate.
Press this.
That's armed now. And if it's all working, I'm going to reach in and try and steal Martin's sex aid. And when I do that... That's awesome! I need one of them in my pants.
What? Should we do that again without the ears on?
No. Alright, so there it is, alarms. They're a very quick and simple thing to put in. If you need some help, you can get help from the Mighty Car Mods forum. I know it's not like a really cool thing that has the name Turbo in it, like a Turbo-y Alarm 5000 JDM Super Freak machine. If it did, more people would probably install them. But it isn't, but it's still an important thing for you to do and has many added benefits.
That's right. Now, if you're at all unsure about how to wire this up, you can always get help from a professional. It's not like wiring a stereo, because if you mess that up, then your music stops. But if you mess up this, your car stops. It's not quite as cool. There's also a whole bunch of things you can do with these alarms, extra inputs and outputs to do, central locking to do window roll-ups, to do all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, and obviously keyless entry and that stuff as well. If you do need help, post up on the Mighty Car Mods forum. There are people there that can help you, including professional people, because we're not, we're just hacks, man. Aren't we, Martin?
Somewhat.
Sad but true. Anyways, in exciting news, Mighty Car Mods Magazine 5. Now, there's so much awesome stuff in this magazine, including the full story of the 180SX and, Martin,
the full story of the build of this MX-5, buying it for $1,500, full of rust, fixing everything and getting it ready to turbocharge.
Yes, the full story, unheard, unseen. So make sure you check that out. Mighty Car Mods Magazine 5. Martin, it's been a lovely, lovely day, and I'm headed that way. Do you know what for?
I'm gonna go get a tofu burger. What are you gonna do?
Dude, I'm gonna get some fried beef, stir-fried chili goodness. I had some beef ribs last night.
Beef.
Why did you not tell me that stuff is delicious? Why didn't you
I've been
stop
telling
and
you
go,
this whole
why didn't you
time.
slap the tofu out of my face and go try this thing?
I've been telling you
I
that
ate a
for
rib,
years.
dude, and it was so good. It was like all juicy, and you know what it had on it, Mark?
Years, man.
Dude, it had on it, it was glazed in ginger beer. It was ginger beer glazed ribs. It was delicious. Tasted better than any tofu I've ever had in my life.
Mighty Car Mods Magazine issue 5 is out now, bursting with automotive madness and DIY projects. We take a closer look at the Figaro, hit the road with our NX5 Roadster Special, plus our flame-throwing Ford Focus and drag racing with mechanical sting. We check out the massive MCM Melbourne meet, plus the real and untold story behind the 180SX build. We head to SEMA in Vegas, and then it's off to Japan for the best and worst of Japanese food. Jam-packed with car news, photography tips, music and madness. MCM Magazine issue 5 is out now.